Hey everyone, I'm Ryan at Marine Parts Source. In this video, I want to go over all the different components that will make up what we believe is the ultimate setup for your Maxwell anchor windlass. Now, not all of these components are sold together. There are some items that come with a Maxwell windlass, and then there are other components that are sold separately. But we believe that when you put all of these components together, you're really going to be able to maximize the performance and get the most durability out of your Maxwell anchor windlass. So let's go through each one of these components and see how they all work together to form the ultimate windlass bundle. So the first piece of this ultimate bundle that we're going to review is the windlass itself. And you really got two main options. You can see I've got two windlasses here in front of me. They're both from Maxwell, and they both perform the same kind of function, but they do it in very different ways. So I have a horizontal windlass here, and you can see it would sit on the deck just like this. There's a little bit that goes below the deck. And then we have a vertical windlass here. As you can see, there's just this part that would be above the deck, and then all of this that goes below. So let's talk about the vertical windlass first. Okay, so here we have the vertical windlass, and as I mentioned before, most of this windlass is actually going to sit below the deck here. All of this mechanism here, the motor and everything, sits below the deck, and really all you see above the deck is just this stainless steel part here. So one of the biggest advantages is that it's going to have a much cleaner look on the deck, and it's going to take up less deck space than a horizontal windlass. Now, the second thing that's a benefit with the vertical windlass is that it's a lot easier to maintain. If you need to make some sort of repair or do any kind of maintenance on it, it's much easier to access and repair a vertical windlass than it is a horizontal one. Third benefit of using a vertical windlass instead of a horizontal is that the chain is going to have a lot more contact with the chain wheel than it would on a horizontal windlass. And this is going to mean you're going to minimize the possibility of a chain jump happening where you can get your chain all locked up. And the fourth and final benefit to using a vertical windlass instead of a horizontal one is when you have a larger windlass that has a capstan or warping drum. Now this is just a small model that I have here, but on larger models that are used on bigger boats, yachts, and that sort of thing, they have a capstan or warping drum, the line pull can go in any direction. Whereas when you have a horizontal windlass of the same size, it can really only go fore and aft. So gives you a lot more versatility with a vertical windlass instead of a horizontal one. So even though we do prefer a vertical windlass in most situations, there are going to be some instances where a horizontal windlass like this one is a better fit. Now, one of those is when your deck thickness is extreme and a vertical windlass is not going to fit well with that. A horizontal windlass is going to be a better choice for you. A second instance where you might be better served with a horizontal windlass is when you don't have a lot of clearance below the deck. So maybe the vertical windlass, the motor won't fit all the way down below the deck, or maybe there's not enough room for the anchor locker. Now, when you have chain only vertical and horizontal windlasses, you want to make sure you have at least 12 inches of clearance below deck for the anchor locker. One final situation where you might prefer a horizontal windlass is when you're going to be operating two anchors with just one winch. In that situation, a horizontal windlass is the better solution for you. Next, I want to point out some of the components that come with a Maxwell windlass. Whether you're buying a rope chain windlass or all chain, whether it's horizontal or vertical, most of the windlasses are going to come with some or all of these components, and they're pretty important to your overall ultimate setup. The first component that I want to point out is this dual direction solenoid pack. And this is the electrical component that's going to allow your windlass to work in both directions, both to drop the anchor and pull it back up. So it's critical for your installation. The second component that I want to draw your attention to is this circuit breaker panel. This is an ignition protected waterproof circuit breaker, and it's going to be pretty important for protecting your windlass and all the other components in the installation from any type of electrical surge or malfunction that could cause damage. You know, your windlass is an expensive piece of equipment, and you want to make sure and protect it at all costs. So a circuit breaker is a pretty important piece to that whole installation. Most windlasses are going to come with this simple up-down control panel, remote panel that can be installed wherever you prefer on your dash or wherever is convenient for you. And this is just going to allow you to easily control the windlass, move it up and down. The final piece I want to make sure we mention is this emergency crank handle. Most windlasses will come with one of these, and if for some reason you lose power to your windlass or it stops working for whatever reason, you have another backup method for being able to get the anchor up or down with this crank handle. Now, by the way, when you start shopping for an anchor windlass, there are a lot of factors to consider, and sizing your windlass can be a complex process. You want to make sure that you get it right for the right size boat, right size anchor, the type of boating that you're doing. There's a lot of things to consider. So Maxwell has provided a really nice selection guide that we have available on our website. The link is below in our description if you want to check it out. And it has all types of detailed information about the measurements, the pull capacity, the pull requirements, and much, much more that can help you to select the correct windlass for your application. We also suggest that you consult with a certified marine mechanic for this type of decision. As always, you can give the experts at Marine Parts Source a call if you want some additional assistance as well. Now, if you're going for the ultimate anchor windlass setup, then one of the items that is critical that you use is this 8-plate anchor rode. This is much different than your typical 3-strand rope that you find so commonly out in the field. This 8-plate rope is going to offer a lot of different benefits over that 3-strand style, and that's why Maxwell recommends this for all applications, and Marine Parts Source does too. So let's dig into some of the benefits, okay? So the first thing is you probably would notice is that this 8-plate rope is going to lay much flatter than a 3-strand rope would. And so when it sits down into the anchor locker, it's going to take up a lot less space. That's really beneficial because you're going to be able to carry a much longer anchor rode as a result. The other thing is because of how it's made and how it lays flatter, it can be quicker in and out of the locker, and that's going to increase the efficiency of the windlass. When you're holding it, you can feel that it's kind of got some springiness to it, or more elasticity, I guess. And what's happening is that it's got more absorption power. In fact, it absorbs energy 75% better than your typical 3-strand nylon line. And what that's going to mean is that the pull-out force for the anchor is a lot less. It's going to reduce the strain on the entire system. And in fact, it's going to reduce any sort of shock loading on fittings and other deck hardware. So again, using this type of rope is going to really extend the longevity of all the components in the system. As you're handling 8-plate line, you're going to feel that it has a lot more flexibility to it than you would feel with 3-strand line. It's not going to kink up and have any kind of hockling like you might experience with 3-strand line. Now we are going for that ultimate windlass setup. So there's a few more components that we want to make sure that we include. The first one is going to be a chain counter. Now this is a control that lets your windlass in or out, but it has the added benefit of having a gauge on it that tells you the measurement of the rode, how much is in or out, and that way you can specifically control it depending on the depth and conditions that you're in. The next component we want to make sure is in your ultimate windlass setup is a chain stopper. What this is going to do is basically lock down on the anchor rode, relieve some of the pressure that's being put on the anchor windlass, and this will hold the load of the anchor instead. You know, windlasses are made to deploy anchors and to retrieve them. They're not meant to hold a constant load. And if you try to do that, it's really going to wear the windlass out quicker. You're going to have to replace it a lot sooner. Having a chain stopper in place is going to help to do that. We also often recommend that you tie off on a cleat the anchor rode as well. That's going to help to relieve a lot of the pressure. But Maxwell recommends using a chain stopper, and so does Marine Parts Source. Now while you're at anchor, your rode can have a tendency to get twisted up. Changing wind direction, whatever, boats moving around, and then it can get knotted up, and if that gets pulled into the chain wheel, you got real problems. It's all locked up and you're trying to pull it through, you're going to cause even more damage to your windlass. So all of that can be avoided by simply using an anchor swivel. With this swivel in place, basically when you start to retrieve your anchor, it's going to spin and avoid any possibility of the rode getting twisted up and possibly getting into the windlass, the chain wheel, and causing bigger issues. Finally, one more piece that will complete your ultimate setup is a foot switch. Now, these are really handy to have for deploying and retrieving the anchor, operating the windlass when you're up at the bow where the windlass is located. So while you may have your control at your dash, this is a great piece to have up near the bow where the windlass is so that you can easily control it and it's hands-free. So that rounds out our ultimate windlass package. When you're using Maxwell components for the entire windlass system, you're going to be in good hands. They've been in business since 1969. They've been in the marine industry for a long time, making high quality products that last, that perform really well, and they look pretty stylish on your boat as well. If you've got any questions about which items to use in your ultimate windlass setup, make sure to give us a call. Our experts are available and ready to help you. The number on the screen. And as always, you can find us online at marinepartssource.com. Now, we really love it if you would like and subscribe to our channel. And of course, if you have any thoughts or comments, you can feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching.